Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? This is Jeremiah, and we are having another webinar on our amazing planting effects plugin for Autodesk Revit. If that sounds exciting to you, then you are in the correct classroom. We're going to have some fun. Showing off some new things because particularly Revit 2024 just pushed out a few weeks ago. So we have been scrambling to incorporate a lot of the new features of that. It's been very exciting. Always nice to see, new improvements. And of course, particularly for what we're doing, we are very, bleeding edge, trying to get a landscape plan in Revit is well, let's insert your favorite word here, right? So it's not exactly easy. It's not exactly built in. My example is when you install Revit and it asks you which discipline you are, landscape architect is not even an option. And that pretty much sums up Revit, right? Where we want to use it, we're kind of forced to use it, but it's not quite there. But luckily we've been able to tweak it in ways and get it to work, much like our AutoCAD plugin. So that's what we're going to be showing today. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I would recommend you click it right now. That'll make it a little quicker for you to type a question, but also note you're going to be able to see the answers that we type to other people's questions. So it makes a really nice little companion while you are watching this. And we are, of course, recording this webinar like all of our webinars. So it'll be up on the website later today so you can show that off to anyone else who missed it. But that is all of my little intro rambling. I will be here to answer questions all throughout. But at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda to take it away.
Thank you, Jer. And hi, guys. It's really good to have you all here. As you might know, well, from what Jer said, it's been an exciting last few weeks for landscape architects in Revit with 2024 being released. And like he said, we've been busy making sure our tools look good in dark mode and play nice with topo solids as well. We're going to be talking about all that today. So my name is Amanda Marin, and I'm a landscape architect myself and our resident Revit guru here at Land Effects. For those of you, though, who've been using Revit, I do want to ask you something. Have you found yourself thinking at any point in your Revit journey, why can't I just place a plant native to where I am? I mean, you start with Revit and immediately it's just, you got beech, you got elder, apple, fraxinus, maple, oak, and literally just a handful of others. But where's the bald cypress native to North America, or yarrow, or any other non-grass, non-tropical perennial? And that's just the start of it. So I'm coming to you today with the answer. It's here now. They're all here in the Planting FX plugin, and we're going to explore some really amazing tools that cut through all the red tape and get you on even footing with your design peers in Revit. So here's what we're going to be going over today. I did do an initial webinar earlier this year that covered a lot of the nitty-gritty of the Planting FX plugin, like the cost, shared licenses, in an office, as well as installation. And that recording is on our website, so I'm going to skip all that part and get straight to the fun stuff. I will quickly show some of the basics again as a recap, but this time we're going to lead into more customization and new features. I'm also happy to answer any questions about cost, licenses, or anything else during the questions at the end today. Today will also be recorded, so don't worry about that. And I do have two asks of you guys before I jump into everything. The first one, open up that Q&A box if you haven't already and start thinking of a question to ask about Revit. And second is also open up the chat window, and I want you to type in your favorite native plant that you like to design with in your area, botanical name and common name, or better, even both. both where your area is and whether it's a tree, shrub, or herbaceous or whatever. So I just kind of want those ideas because I'm hoping for some good ones. I will be using them in this webinar if all goes well. So here we go. No more slides. For now, we're just gonna hop straight into Revit, maximum time over here in Revit. So the one big change this week, we did push out update 1.1.1 this week. And the big important thing about it is that it is only for Revit 2022 to 2024. You can still install planting effects on 2019 to 2021, but they are now legacy and can't update past version 1.0.30. We did this to reduce the development time on tools across the versions and pick 2022 because of some major features introduced in that version. But to be honest with you guys, the big new feature in 2024 is topo solids, and with topo solids, I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of landscape architects demanding that the team upgrade the model to 2024. If not right away, because it just got released, at least after like a 2024.1 update. So the first big change then in 2024 that I wanted to show off to you guys is dark mode. So here's how to turn it on. I love dark mode. Let's go over here to File and Options. And here we're going to go to Colors. And the default when you install 2024 is to use the system setting for UI active theme. And that's the one you want to go ahead and switch to dark mode. And that will automatically change the canvas color to dark mode as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And that changes everything. But have a look at this beautiful new dark mode planting FX ribbon. I just love it. And also really fancy, we've got a dark mode plant manager here for you guys to work with. So you can kind of even look at your previews in here. Everything's nice and easy on the eyes, frankly. So you'll notice this is what the canvas looks like in dark mode. This would be very easy to kind of work with. A little less with, sometimes the white lines clash a bit depending on what kind of view you have. And also it doesn't record very well for webinars. So I will be turning this over to canvas theme light mode while keeping the dark mode ribbons like this. So just so you know, you can do that. So let's jump into that quick start that I was mentioning that we'll be covering. Let's go ahead and go back over to the Planting FX ribbon. And we covered this a bit last time, but just as a recap, the first place you want to start if you're new to Planting FX plugin, you want to go over to projects and open that up. And you're going to, this might be empty for you if you're brand new to Planting FX, in which case you're going to click new and you're going to give it a project number and a project name. And the project number should match the project number in your project information dialog for Revit. And the name can just be descriptive. So you do want to make sure that you're not changing the project number that you choose here. It will change that project number in Revit as well, which you want to make sure you're playing nice with the others on your team if they already have that set up. So keep that in mind. I'm just going to close this, or if you already have a list going and you're kind of migrating a plan from the AutoCAD version of the Land Effects plugin over into Planting FX Revit, you can choose from any one of these and click open. I'm just going to close it because mine's already set. The next place you're going to go is the plant manager. So if this is closed, you just click the plant manager and that opens. And then we'll move our way over as we go along today. But the first place you're going to go into is here in the plant manager. We have trees, shrubs, and ground covers. So these are our categories of plants, and they mostly are suggestions of what goes in there. They are just titles of how these types of plants behave versus these types versus these types. These ones pull from a tree library of symbols, shrub library of symbols, ground cover hatches for floors and topo solids. And for trees, And shrubs and ground covers, all of those also separate out to give different options for things like these plant sizes that you can set in here. So I'm going to add a tree, and let's see. Ooh, good. We got a lot of suggestions in the chat. So yeah, pretty big risk using new suggestions in a live webinar, but I figured it'd be a lot of fun. And hey, who doesn't like learning about plants from different regions? So I'm going to click new. This isn't dark mode yet, but this is the powerhouse of planting FX. So let's see, I'm going for a tree because I'm in the tree category and I clicked new. What's one I haven't used before? Roan tree. Interesting. I haven't used that one before, sorbus. So I can search by botanical name. And I can even do partial botanical name if I want to and just search, and that's going to bring it down. Okay, yes, I have actually used that one. It's been a while. But I haven't used this particular species. So the Acuparia is the species suggested in the chat. Very interesting. Okay, so we got Sorbus acuparia, and we have all of these varieties available to choose from. So I can just go ahead and add that to my project. I can also click here and have a look at some of the data on it and contribute to the data in the database as well if you want to. And do look forward to some more tabs eventually coming up over here. So keep an eye out on this data tab as you go through. But I'm just going to grab that and add it to the project. It's that easy to add a brand new plant into here. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to now click edit because you can see it has that little dash by default here, which means that it doesn't have any sizes assigned to it. It's a brand new plant we've added into the system. So it's auto-filled the names and the plant code, but you can edit any of these. And this is a copy in this project number only. Any changes you make to anything in here won't affect that main plant database that we were just looking at. It also won't affect any other projects in here. So keep that in mind. You can go wild in here without worrying about other projects that you're working on. I can put in some remarks, I can put in a cost, I can also put in a size. So this list right here is the default. So I'm going to go ahead and say maybe a 2-inch caliper and say a wire basket. These are the defaults. You can edit them. And I have happened to add a few extras down here. We'll learn how to do that. So let's say that this is, yes, a native to where I want to. And a lot of people ask me like, hey, how do I put in wookles? This is kind of where you're going to put that in. And I'll show you how I put that in just a moment after we place this plant. So I can change the size. Actually, this one might be mountain ash normally is a little bit of on the smaller side. So 20 feet is probably good. And I can click here on the symbol. So I just click that box. And I have all of my symbol library in here. I can switch this toggle to see between 3D billboard and 2D plan view, keeping in mind that this 2D plan view is linked to this billboard specifically under this family name. So I'll want to go to deciduous and I can see all the trees since I have a pretty robust library already, all the trees that have already been chosen. So I'm just going to go with this one that just happens to look pretty similar to what I think this plant looks like. And I can now toggle between here to see the two different symbols assigned to this. So I can say, okay, and that one's good to go. Just let it update. I can grab it and click the place button down here. And we can start placing it around here. And you can see it's following the terrain of this topo surface, and it's even hosting itself onto it, sorry, not topo surface, topo solid. It's actually hosting itself onto it. So if you go in and edit this topo solid and move it around, it will follow up and down with it. Let's have a quick look so you can see that it is actually landing on there. And as it's doing that, it's also, if I go over here to my site plan, landing nicely in there, and the symbol isn't getting cut off by the terrain on these slopes because we've elevated the symbol up already. So that's all good to go. And so we do have some extra placement tools as we go through this. The first one I wanted to show you was copy along. So I have this tool over here, grab copy along, grab my example plant that I want to copy along. And I've just drawn a detail line in here. I'll show you how to do that. But I can just click on this and I can click more if I want to, but once I'm done, I'm just going to hit escape. Yes to topography, and that's going to fill them all in. Now it's going to start at one point and go along. I do have some extra controls in here. I can click D to increase the spacing, and you can kind of see that it's increasing the spacing to, it will say it down here as I hit D, 20.7, 20.8, or I can go up and click 1 and actually just enter the spacing in here. So maybe I want it at 30-foot spacing. Or maybe a little better might be 25. Let's try that one. Yeah, that's a little better. So that's one tool to quickly start placing these around. If I switch back to 3D, you can see those plants starting to get placed around. And the cool thing about these plants that are being placed with the Planting FX plugin is that if I select one of these and have a look here at the, make sure I'm just selecting the plant, have a look at the properties, it's auto-filling in a bunch of shared parameters in the project so that these can be eventually used for tags and schedules, and it's auto-filling in all of that information into this plant. So even if I go through here and I say edit this plant, so there's an edit plant tool up here, and there's an edit plant tool down there that we already did. So I can even just quickly, as I'm going through my design, edit that plant and change, say, this plant code to A11, we'll say, like that, and say okay. That's going to go through here and edit that code on the shared parameters for each of the plants in here. So updating that for you, which makes it really easy jumping into Revit as a first-time Revit user, or even as a Revit guru. Having that all pre-done for you so that you're not having to click in here. And also just think about how easy it would be to have somebody, for you to train somebody new in Revit how to do everything. You don't have to train them up to expert level just to start placing trees and create a schedule. They can come in at more of a basic Revit understanding and grow their knowledge in the software with all of this very advanced stuff already done for them. So the next thing I want to try and show was, let's sort of look at doing the same sort of thing with shrubs. So if I go over to shrubs, I already have some in here, but I'm going to click new. And let's see. Winter's Heath. Let's see which one that one is. I might already know it, but it might be a different common name. Let's see. So I'm just going to type winter, and let's see if we find it. There's a bunch of stuff with winter in the name. Let's call Winter Heath. I like trying to trick up the system. There we go. It landed right on it just with that amount of information about what that plant is. So even with a little bit of, it was called this, I think, or even it was something, but it had like a variety name of Sarah's Gold, and you can go through there and find that exact plant in here with even just a little snippet of a memory of what that plant was. So I can go into here, and this one has quite a few varieties, but as you guys know, there's always new varieties on the market. So we don't have access to everything real time, but you might really want to use a plant in here that isn't in here. You can quickly add that by going new plant and choosing a new variety name. And I'll call this Amanda's Winter Heath. And that's going to add this into the list, but it's only adding it for you. So in this case for me. So if you go in, you're not going to see Amanda's Winter Heath in here. So I can grab this one, and if I look at the data, it's auto-filling it with what it already knows about Winter Heath. I can make some changes in here based on this variety. Maybe it has a different color to it or a different season of bloom than the most other varieties in that species. I'll just close this, but I can add that into the project. And basically what it's doing is it's adding it for you, but it's also pinging us so that we can make sure it's a real plant. In this case, it's not, so it's going to get thrown away. Or if it's a real plant, compare it against trusted sources to make sure all the data and spelling and everything is correct, and we add it into the system for everybody else. So we're all helping each other. I'm going to add that one to the project, and I'm going to click done. And I'm going to find that in here. Here it is. And we're going to edit that one. And I'm just going to go through this super quick. Pick a size. I'll just go with number 2 pot and native. Yes. And let's go with a symbol width. I'll say it's 2.5 feet. And of course, if you're in metric, this dialog box will auto recognize the units that you're currently working in and will change feet to meters for you automatically in here. So do know that if you are in metric, the default sizes on the metric preference set are catered specifically to you, and that you can edit those as well. So I'm going to go into here. Here's all my symbols. So I'm going to say this is probably a mounding. And I'm going to say OK. And there it is, ready to place. So I can click place, or I can also double click on the plant right there, and that automatically triggers the place command. So if I'm placing this one down, let's say I'm just going to place it down here for right now. And I'm going to go into the site mode, and I'm going to show you something else of how you can place this. So what we can also do is fill with plants. So we saw copy along before. Now we're going to look at fill with plants. So I can go fill with plants. I'm going to grab this plant right here, and I'm going to go over into this area right here. So it's asking to choose a floor or topo solid. And let's go with try and OK. And that's going to autofill that area. And now these are all separate. So I can just grab one and say delete it if it doesn't quite fit. Or I can go up here and say go to clone plant. And you want to use clone instead of copy, the native copy. We're going to go in here and we're just going to clone that one and place it right in here and kind of fill in the gaps. I can also use a tool over here called Mimic Plant. So this plant right here has all of that information for the heath. I can go into Clone Mimic, and we're going to go Mimic, and I can change that by selecting this plant and saying mimic this plant to it. It's going to change that little shrub into this plant instead. And while it did it, automatically fill in all of the parameters for the plant that I chose originally. So very smart, very quick, very intuitive. And if you're already coming from land effects in any of our plugins, very familiar. So let's see, is that everything I wanted to show you with the shrubs? Yes, so let's move on into ground covers. I'm going to grab a ground cover and I'm going to actually do a new one. So I think I saw something in there that was more, let's see, ground cover. Bottle brush will do. It's not quite a ground cover, but it might be something that you will want to put into like a plant area, a massing, and just represent it with a hatch. You might recognize this workflow from what you've done in AutoCAD for very long, and you've been wanting to do it in Revit as well. So you can do this on floors or topo solids. And so we're going to try that out. Let's find our bottle brush. There we go. And did you say a specific bottle brush? Citrinous. Awesome. Let's grab that one. Just has varieties of this one, so I'm gonna grab white Anzac lemon bottle brush. I'm gonna add this to the project. Done. White Anzac, there it is. It's got nothing assigned, so keep in mind if there's no symbols assigned yet, it will just show as blank. If there's symbols assigned, you're going to see in here, you're going to see the hatch preview and the color preview. We're not going to have too much time to go over color today. I did cover that in the last webinar though. So I'm going to edit that one. We're going to go with the size, 1 gallon. We're going to say pot. I'm going to say yes, it's native because that's our theme today. And we are going to go with a spacing in here. So it doesn't automatically put a spacing in this case, or a typical spacing for this sort of thing like it did for trees and shrubs. So I do have to put something in, or I can leave it as 0. And if I leave this as 0, when I label this, or put it in a schedule, it will not attempt to find out how many plants are in that area. It will just leave the quantity at square foot or square meters, which is a great handy tool to have if you want to just figure out like an area of sod or an area of, say, a rooftop sedum mat that's already pre-grown, and or an area to seed in general would also work. So in this case, it's an actual shrub, and I likely do want to figure out how many plants are going to be in the area. So I'm going to put this as, that one's probably about, I'd say 3-foot spacing. So I'm going to go 36 inches, or about a meter, 0.9 of a meter. Let's go in here, and here's all of our hatches ready to go. The previews, we're still working on clearing up the previews, but you get the gist of what they're going to do. So I'm going to pick something like, we'll go with this one right here. And I'm going to say OK. And if I select it, you can see that that is selected on here. If I wanted to, I could assign a color as well. I'm going to leave it for right now, and we're going to go ahead and place that one. So once I go to place, it's asking me to select a floor region. You can see it at the bottom left at the moment. Select a floor region, and this will populate it with plants. We got to update that because it does now allow selecting topo solids as well. So I can go over here and say, select this area right here. Yeah, we'll do that one. And that's going to fill it in. I'm going to escape because I'm still in the place command, so I can still start placing things around. It's still asking me to select a floor. So be careful about that. But I'm going to hit escape to get out of it just to select this. It's always a little hard to select floors with everything around it in the site view or the 2D view. So I find it easier to select the floors in 3D view. I can see that it's added a custom floor type for me. And again, filled in all the parameters in here. So you can go into and edit that floor type as you want to, if you want to customize it just a little bit. But let's see putting it on topo solids. So I do have some topo solids all throughout here. They're currently on the default grassland. I didn't quite have time to start customizing that type and playing around with it more in this model before this, but I would definitely recommend customizing your topo solid type, because grass doesn't grow like this with grass and then gravel and then earth. So you definitely need to go in there and edit type on these ones. Eventually, on future updates, we are going to automate some of the type placing as well, like we did with the floors over there. But in the meantime, this is what it does. If I go place, and just place that onto that topo solid. Okay. There we go. It actually did it over the whole thing in here, as you can see. So that's where the subregions do, subdivisions do come into play in here. So I'm gonna back out and undo that if I can. Oh, I gotta escape out of the command before I can get to undo. Yeah. Undo. There we go. And I'm gonna undo. I didn't think that one was connected to this one, so I'll have to see how that behaved like that with that topo solid. But in this case, I might want to just place it on. I have a subdivision of this topo solid. Everybody's starting just really getting to know topo solids in these last few weeks and finding out quirks as we use them more and more. There definitely are some quirks. You definitely do need to be careful with topo solids. There are some great, we're focusing all of our tools in here on the planting side, making sure that this workflow is really easy for you. Everything is automated and you can meet your deadline basically, and know that everything's going to be correct. There are some other plugins out there like Environment that deal more with higher accuracy in floors and topo solids and terrain and all of that, that we definitely recommend as a companion to just enhance everything in here in Revit and make everything easier. I don't quite have any tools for that to show you today, but I've split this into subregions. So they are still part of this main topo solid in here. They don't quite do cut and fill very well, which is the word on the street about them. But what I can do, at least in land effects, in planting effects, is I can place my plant onto them. There we go, ground cover placed. And still working through the hatches on here. I know there's some other tools to help align those hatches a little bit better across everything, and we'll probably be looking into that as well. But in the meantime, at least you know that if you select it, it has all of the parameters on the topo solid subdivision, and which is really cool because if you go into here and say add a point or modify these elements, I'm just going to add a point, say in here, and go a little bit wild and pop that right up. There we go. So something a bit crazy. You can see that that area of planting is still following it and is going to grab the updated area on it as well. So I think that's everything I want to show you with placing plants, adding and placing plants. Really quick start. Let's go to label plants. So I'm going to go to site. Zoom. Okay, here we go. Labeling, really easy. Click the label, click group label, and we can go ahead and click that plant and then rectangle over everything. It recognizes what it needs. So it doesn't matter if you pick other things, and then just place that label down and it's going to count all of them. So as I go through, I can say label this area and rectangle over it. pop that down, and it's going to tell me how many plants are going to be in that area. And the calculation we do for this is called natural spacing. So it's somewhere in between, and we actually have the calculation on our website. It's in between triangular and rectangular spacing, and just based on the whole software was based on a landscape architect, Jer's dad, wanting a software to work for him. And so they came up with natural spacing because he found on site rectangular spacing, unless you're strategically spacing things rectangularly in a bed, wasn't how things ended up in the bed, and ended up being too few plants. And triangular spacing ended up being too many plants. Just the straight triangular spacing calculation. So they came up with natural spacing, which consistently on site ended up being the right amount of plants. So moving along from there, we can label everything. Once we're done, we go ahead and we verify labels. And this is a check to make sure everything that you want to label is labeled, so that you can see when you've forgotten things. So you can imagine in a much more complicated plan how easy it might be to forget to label just this floor over here. This is your way to strategically label in your plan. You can see I still need to label all of these, so I can start running a group label. And then as I label these, they're going to unhighlight themselves, and I can keep moving along. Another strategy you can use when labeling, so kind of we're getting a little bit past basics and into more strategy. I like to use this highlight tool over here and pick a species, and that will highlight groups of it around your plan, so you can formulate in your head how you might want to do group labels, or something like if you want to do connecting line labels, you can better see the path of the lines in between all of the plants in here. So click on highlight again to remove the highlight. Highlight also works on if you wanted to see what a label is labeling. Maybe you're troubleshooting why something isn't quite behaving how you thought. You can click on a label. It will tell you what it thinks it's labeling. And you can also run highlight down here in the plant manager to just find all of something that you've placed in here. Like here's all of my bottle brush in my plan at a glance.
You know, Amanda Kalen has a great question regarding labeling.
Sure.
She just asked, should all plant labels be placed in the model or in the sheet?
At the moment, you will need to place them in the model. I believe we're still working on testing placing them in the sheet. So I haven't actually tried that one out for you. But I believe at the moment it will only work through the model. But I'll update myself if I'm wrong. And obviously, based on you suggesting that, that just reminded me I need to put that on the wish list and make sure. So I'm actually going to write that one down, labels in sheet. Because that is a good workflow that we have on the CAD side. Yeah, as we go through improving this plugin, we're kind of using that CAD plugin as our basis of where to go, and slowly improving the capabilities of all these tools to match how they work on the CAD side, which in turn is just improving the workflow in Revit for landscape architects, because you get the best of both worlds. You get the established capabilities of land effects on the CAD plugin, and you get this really, I mean, cannot beat being able to switch between 2D and 3D and seeing everything all at once, and just like moving something in 3D like that. First of all, having it like lock itself to a terrain like it's doing right now. It's not just moving sideways like it might in SketchUp. And you don't have to like pick the perfect point on the family to move it and slide it along that topo surface like you do in SketchUp. It's actually following along because it's all linked together. and actually have it move along with that. And you can see the label on that one actually moved with it when I did that as well, which is just so many cool things working together in Revit. I just love it. If you haven't tried Revit and you're trying to think of if it's right for you guys to move into it and start doing your planting plans in Revit, it's I mean, it is a balance that you want to strike with your team. What we're trying to do is make it more in the favor of Revit, because like the things you need to balance are how easy is it to train people in using this software, uh, as well as myself initially, and how easy is it to enforce our company standards and all of those balancing things. Like if we dive into Revit, is the overhead cost on setting everything up and redoing all of our templates worth the gain that we're going to get for these really fantastic new and interesting projects where the team is saying everybody has to use Revit? You're opening yourself up to these new interesting projects, these new capabilities, but it does come at a cost. So what we're trying to do is lower that cost, so it's a lower barrier of entry to you, so that you can say yes and just start playing around in Revit even, and seeing where it goes. It becomes a lot more fun, more playful, and more exciting, I think, this way. Let's kind of go into, I wanted to go into more, speaking of all of that, let's talk about customizing and some new tools. So first new tool that is different from the last time you saw us was this adjacent plants is now here on the ribbon. So I'm gonna click that. It's really easy. You click the plants and it selects all of them. So if you did fill with plants and you're like, I actually wanted rectangular spacing in here, you can just do this, delete them all, run fill with plants again at the right spacing, and you're done. Very easy. You can also do it for selecting everything kind of along the line. The area for it to pick it all up is, I believe, 2.5 times the width for trees and 1.5 times the width for, it was 1.5 or 2. It's on our documentation and I'm just blinking at the moment. For shrubs, it was a smaller area for shrubs. So I can go adjacent plants and select all of these trees, and it's going to select them even though they're not touching each other. They're within 2.5 times the distance. The next one is I wanted to talk about that customizing those size parameters that we talked about over here. So if I go over, I'm gonna do this, these size fields. So you're going to do that over here in preferences, and you're going to go to plant sizes. Now, by default, you will have imperial and metric. I do recommend going into manage and clicking new and naming it something for your office. And you do want to name it a name that will alphanumerically pop above everything else in the list. So alphanumerically, in the case of somebody new, above imperial, so that it will be the default preference set that your projects set themselves to when you make new projects. And you can see all the sizes in here. So by default, this would have, say, just 2 columns in here. So all I did was pop this down to 4 columns, and I'll kind of do it one more time. I'll increase this to 5 columns. We're going to get 5 columns here, and I can name this what I want. So one suggestion that people have been asking me, in addition to like native and WUCLs, has been carbon sequestration. Oh, good, I typed it right. I'll just put carbon as the scheduled column title. And so it's definitely something that we're looking into for this, for things like defaults. But in the meantime, you can fill it in yourself. You can add this in here. I'm just going to say OK to lock that in and go back in and click on here and just go new and start putting in new values in here that I can start assigning to plants. So honestly still working on even what kind of values would be in here, but I'll just say 10 for now, just random number. So you can see how this works. I can go okay, and let's go to those trees, and I'm going to say grab this one and I'm going to edit it. And you can now see that in here with that value available to choose from over here. Say okay, and I can go ahead and place that down in my plan. I'll have to look at that symbol. Oh, that's right. Detail level course. Oh, it should have popped it. Should not have popped in there, but I am going to go ahead and, oh yeah, I was going to show you over here. That's where it's landing that LAFX field 5 parameter. So now I can say run a schedule. So plant schedule is here. It's also down here in your plant manager. And you're going to get a schedule just like this. So the plant schedule for trees and shrubs and the ground cover schedules are still separated at this moment, but now this is an experimental version that I'm working on right now. But the next update, probably in the next 2 weeks, you are going to get this as your default schedule style. So right now, if you click schedule, you'll notice that all the plants kind of align together. And I showed you how what the settings were for everything in here before. I'll kind of go through them really quick again. But do know in the next 2 weeks, if you just make a new schedule with the new update, it will sort itself a lot more nicely like this. So with this, if I go over to site and say, I want to show you what it looks like if I grab one of these plants in a plant group. So these are all the plant groups by default. You can edit this list as well of what to choose from or how these are named. And so I'm going to place this guy right here. Place that down, maybe 2 of them. And we're going to go back into plant schedule. And instantly coniferous trees is in there as well. And so you can use the filtering and sorting to organize how all of these appear in here. I will say I did want to mention for the ground cover schedule, at the moment, it is now a multi-category schedule. It used to be just a floor schedule, but now it's a multi-category schedule. And that's so that the view didn't quite fix in here. I'll have to see what's happening in there. Oh, I need to update what this is filtering. The test version. I need to test these things now I find them before you get them. It will include both floors and ground covers in here. So this total is actually the floors and the ground covers that I applied this to. And I did want to mention for the ground cover schedule that it is calculating it at the moment. So you will need to, and updating actual parameters, static parameters. So to update the quantities in the schedule, at the moment for ground covers, I do recommend running verify labels just to update all the data in all of the floors and topo surfaces to accurately count the spacing based on any area changes. And we're looking at how to improve that workflow. So we don't have too much more time. Let's go into did customize size parameters. Oh, the last thing I wanted to look at for customizing was the planting effects family. That has come up a lot of I want my own symbol style in planting effects in here. Or what has also come up is I want the same symbol for every single plant. I can't say how much I don't recommend that as a company style standard enough. But I do understand that sometimes in an office style standard cogs can turn slowly. In this case, mostly for people asking for the same symbol for everything, it's because of past workflows where land effects or planting effects wasn't involved, and it was difficult to choose different symbols for every single plant and make sure you were choosing different symbols for everything. Now it's easy, so now you guys can talk about changing that style standard to something that is very arguably more legible of different symbols for every plant. But in the meantime, you can make a workaround for yourself to have different more symbols than what we have as we build the library, but also use the same symbols if you really need to. And that is customizing. So I'm going to go into this guy and we're going to make a copy of him and kind of make some changes, or maybe this guy. Let's do this one. I like this one. So this one's name is LAFX tree conf 04. So if I go into my library folder, we're going to go into library. So I set my library when I installed to library 2024. And if I go to trees and I go to coniferous, I have tree conf 04. What I'm going to do is make a copy of this. And I'm also at the same time going to set myself up to have all of these in another folder where I can direct my staff of when you're assigning symbols, just use the symbols in this folder over here. So I'm going to copy these, Control C, and go back to trees. And instead of conifer, I'm going to make a new folder. And I'm going to call it ADM. You can name it based on your company, but again, alphanumerically, it will be on top. And I'm going to paste these in here. Control V. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to call this ADM conf. I'll say it's 001 because it's my first one that I want. And I'm going to rename all of these, all these files, keeping the little tilde 2D in here. And eventually, once you make any edits, if you're editing for new family symbols, you would update these JPEGs with new screenshots of your geometry changes. But I'm going to open up this guy. And the first thing I need to do while in here, by the way, if you're looking at this and you're like, where's my symbol? It's on the ceiling. So you go to the reference level, it's on there. And this is a family. So I need to go in and edit this family and edit the next family until I get to the geometry. But what I can do, the first thing you want to do when you do this and create a copy with a new file name is go into the family types, and you can see this still says LAFX tree conf. So I want to edit this name and call it ADM tree conf 001, the same as my file name, and say okay, and say okay. And now I can start making any edits I want. So I can go in here, edit this family, and it's back on the ceiling. Go on here, right click, edit this family. It's also in the ribbon, by the way. But once I get into here, I've got the whole family. You can see the color render fill over here, but I can go in and, I'm just going to add some lines, extra lines in here. I'm just going to add an extra circle in the middle, like so. There's my different symbol. Okay, then I'm going to load into project and close. And I want to load it into the symbol first, right? That was the second level. And the symbol RFA is just a means to get to the default detail RFA and scale everything correctly. Do I want to save changes to detail RFA? This is asking you to save another file called detail RFA. I want to say no. What that's going to do is overwrite it in here. I'm just going to overwrite, not with parameter. And there, it's updated. Close and load into project, load it into this guy now, say okay. No, I don't want to save any changes in that because I'm going to just overwrite it in here. Done. Now with all of that changed, I'm going to save this file. And I'm going to close, and I'm going to close both of the views of that file. And now, so that was a new tree. Let's go in here. I'm going to grab this coniferous tree, not that coniferous tree. Let's add, let's do this coniferous tree. I'm going to edit it. And now when I go to my symbol selection, there's my ADM folder up at the front. And there is my symbol. Now, this is an artifact of saving things in. This is one step I forgot, was you should, after you save things, go back into here and delete them from in here. The preview hasn't been updated because I need to take a screenshot when I'm editing it and update what this JPEG looks like. These two JPEGs look like, in order for it to look physically different in here. I have updated our documentation for this, so do go look at that. But I can now select that and say okay, and place this in place, and it looks how I want it to, and it's scaled itself up to how I want it to. So that's kind of all the customizing I wanted to show that was new, and workflows that we've worked through, just to let you know how to really get going with this and get your planting plan documented into here. So I did want to kind of go through some extra stuff while we go through some questions. First off is I wanted to talk about our radar for what's coming up. Here's our 1 year-ish radar. Basically, some of the things on here, it's quite ambitious, this list, and everything's kind of still jockeying for position on in terms of priority, and mostly based on as we find new ways to do things and easier ways to do things, we might be able to knock something off the list faster than we thought. So but then as we go into 2 to 3 year, this is kind of what we're looking at in the longer term, but we're also looking for your ideas. So one big thing with your ideas was, when you send us an idea for what you want, it is really super helpful if you send us an example of how you currently do it manually. Because it's all well and good to say, hey, can Revit shoot my landscape plan to the moon? If you can actually do it yourself manually in Revit, we have a much better chance of automating it. And then the more people who ask for similar things and share with us how they do it manually, we can pick and choose from all of those suggestions the right way, the best way that gives the best result. And it helps with our research and in determining how to best develop our new tools. So for my examples are, the color render tool was one thing that kind of came about from a bunch of people asking us for it, and a few of them showing us how they do it, and we picked out how would be best to match the standards of the most people. And this is kind of a call out to everybody for plant mixes inside floors and now topo solids. We're looking for how you do it. We do have some suggestions, and we're kind of fishing for the right way to do it. We would love to see how you do it so that we can best match your workflow and the standards you might have already developed, and then just automate it for you to put all of this into it. So it just becomes better. But now's probably a good time to start going through some of those questions.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. Yeah, please let's chime in with some questions. We got a few minutes here. That would be fantastic. Um, I think I got to a lot of them. I'm trying to scroll through here, find some good ones. Yeah, like Caleb wants to know if we're going to be able to have symbols in the plant schedule, and of course that is very much the top of our list. That should be
Literally.
pushing out, yeah, literally at the top of the list. Yeah. So I think what was do we have the did Kurt have a prototype of that yet, or we're a
No,
couple weeks out maybe?
we're still working on it.
Okay, so yeah,
We
so
pushed out the first, we kind of took a little detour for 2024. And
that's right.
then we did this, and the next step is symbols in here as well.
Gotcha, exactly. And lots of other things coming with the schedule, being able to have a custom ordering of the columns and have that saved in preferences, things like that. So just, yeah, so much on our radar. Jim asked if we have any plans to, modify the contours, the topo solids, things like that. That's something we're not looking to do. We're very much trying to stay in our lane,
Mhm.
and so we're focused on the planting, the site amenities, the irrigation, the hardscape, all of those items. Once it gets into the site work, the topography, there are other plugins that are focused on that. We're going to kind of leave that to them. So we're hoping to coexist very well with these other plugins. And yes, it does mean that Revit, certainly for our discipline, is going to look a lot like SketchUp, right? When you
Mhm.
see a power user with SketchUp, what do they have? They've got a whole bunch of plugins installed.
Yeah.
And for our discipline in Revit, that's what it's going to take to make Revit work. Is there's not going to be one plugin that does everything you need. It's going to be a number of them. And then over time, I'm sure Autodesk will incorporate some functionality and things will settle out. But for the future, you should certainly not be scared or wary of having to install multiple plugins to get Revit to do what you need to do. And we had another question just about, how it correlates with AutoCAD, such as can we import the design from AutoCAD? We can, at least the trees and shrubs. And also though the project data and the preferences is the exact same data. So, you can be literally working on even the exact same plan in real time between both Revit and CAD.
Mhm.
We're even as we port the symbol library over to Revit, we've been trying to do an exact port so that in fact the exact same symbols are available in Revit and even named the same as they are in CAD. So that was always the hope, and that is the direction I've been giving the team, is that single planting effects license can be used on AutoCAD, Revit, Rhino, and SketchUp. You can go back and forth any direction, and the hope is that the plan will look the same and your standards and preferences will carry over across all of them.
Yeah, because even right now, if you import, use that import button on a ground cover, it will actually automatically assign the same hatch as it's already assigned on the CAD side if you've pulled it from a project that was previously a CAD project.
Yeah. And then one last question. When is this going to be available for 2024?
Now,
It is now. Okay,
now,
I
yeah,
thought
right
was
now.
okay. She said that. Yeah, Kaylin said that on our website it says to 2023.
Ooh,
So
okay, I need to talk
maybe,
to Jason.
yeah, maybe it's just our website thing. But I know, like in the also we are also putting this into the Revit App Store, and I know that one is still pending. So I don't know if maybe that was also where she might have been looking. But yeah, it is now, and of course, but can even no matter how you install it, note that the rate of development on it is ferocious, and so we target a update every single week, and you're going to want to install it because the rate of improvement is extreme on every single weekly basis. But certainly, you get to 2 or 3 weeks, definitely check for an update and install the latest, and you're going to see incredible continued improvement with this all through this year, addressing those items that Amanda showed. But on that note, hey, it's time to go to lunch, everybody, and have a great day and have a great weekend. And we will see you next time.
Thank you guys so much.